Let's continue. In the previous section, I covered all the armor dungeon bosses mechanics, and not gonna lie, I'm kinda glad I helped a lot of people clear stage 12 using the guide I gave out. If you haven't watched the previous guide for the armor dungeons, I highly recommend you do, since the weapon and necklace bosses are much harder and it requires you to have semi-competent gear. I'll link the video down in the descriptions below, so be sure to check it out. But that's enough of that. In this guide, I'll be walking you through the armor and necklace bosses mechanics, starting with Mek'ril and Dek'ril, Glycis and Mateos. As always, since this is a PvE content that puts you under a turn count, CP talismans are highly recommended on all your units since it consistently helps you break the boss. Everything you've learned about fighting bosses will be put to the test, so this guide will help you get there much easier. Ready? Let's go! Believe it or not, this is the easiest boss to clear, if you can get around their evasion. Whenever you miss against the raid beetle, it will launch an AoE counterattack that inflicts poison to your team. The damage from the beetle is not anything impressive, but your team can only take that many poison damage before you die from poison, right? CP talismans and using mostly fire units in your team is encouraged. Spamming chain attacks is typically how you beat this boss. Since the boss enrages pretty early, running Executioner's Charm and Rogue Charms are the two of your best friends to build up your CP meter. You can realistically run 0 healers against this boss, but that requires you to strategically attack the raid beetle. If you're not comfortable with your accuracy, hit the green beetle instead. Sterbby and Cindy are good accuracy buffers in this hunt, and if you want to make your life easier, run Eternal in your team. That said, the absolute best units for this hunt is Eternal, Air and Valentine. Looks familiar? Well, that's because this is your core for Chimera.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock!
Eternal functions a little different here, however. In Chimera, you want to use her for a defense break, but in Dek'ril and Mek'ril, her function is to apply reduced evasion and stripping away the evasion buff granted by the green beetle. Good units to run here would be Christina, Sterbby and Cindy. Christina consistently applying unbuffable, attack up and defense up whenever the green beetle grants evasion, and S1 that strips makes her a very good replacement for Eternal if you don't have her. Sterbby and Cindy are your accuracy buffers, but Sterbby does more weakness gauge damage, while Cindy helps you keep your accuracy buff for longer. Take your pick. The Ice Queen is going to be where you're gonna spend majority of your time in, much like Chimera, so pay attention. Glycis' entire mechanic is her freezing non-fire and water units at the start of her turn. If you're gonna get hit while being frozen, she gets attack up and does an additional attack. She also summons her minion to freeze you when they take a turn. Once she's enraged, she puts up a resilience and invulnerability buff for a turn and will nuke your entire team once she is ready to ult. The goal here is to try and stack up as many chain attacks as you can and try and enrage her once you have at least 2 chain attacks ready. Hold until the invulnerability buff disappears and you want to unload every chain attack you've saved up and break her as soon as possible. Follow this and she's a cakewalk. So to keep things simple, this boss is complex. Pay attention to the minions when attacking the boss and kill the minions so you don't get frozen by them. Wait out the invulnerability buff and go to town with your chain attacks to break her. Now the absolute best units for this stage would be Noah, Demiurge Stellar and Rona. Noah is by far the best DPS here simply because, depending on your talismans, you want to use her finisher for the quick CP gain once she is enraged, since breaking her before she ults is super important. D-Stellar is amazing here because she cannot be frozen and her S1 is an AoE which helps you kill off the ad so you don't get frozen. And to top that off, her chain finish is what you'll be abusing to beat the turn counts in Glycis 12. Rona is here simply for the defense break on her S3 to help you deal more damage to her, reducing the turn count. You want to use her S3 only when Glycis is broken to keep your run stable. For your healer, I recommend using Saren to shake off the speed down debuff that Glycis will land on you when she does her AoE attack. But more importantly, she's here to priority push Noah to the front line whenever her S3 is available to get more damage in. Lutia also works here since her S1 is a priority push when she has fierce offensive, plus she does damage. Pretty pork if you ask me. Honestly fitting as the third weapon and accessory boss, Mateos will force you to incorporate all the strategies you've learned beating Bugs and Ice Queen. Mateos' gimmick lies in him counter-attacking every 5 hits he takes, and if he kills anyone in the process, he will launch a second attack that hurts like a bitch. There is absolutely no point bringing a healer to this boss because he puts unhealable on everyone which cannot be cleansed. Keep in mind that Mateos enrages very early, and that puts you on a 3-turn timer to kill him. That being said, Mateos doesn't come without his weakness. For one, he hits like a wet noodle if you have a shield on you, Another weakness is he's fucking slow, so it's pretty easy to lap him and take multiple turns before he even takes a turn. Once he is enraged, you want to stack as many chain skill as possible, and just before his enrage ends, you want to break him. The second you break him, unleash every chain skill on him before he wakes up from his slumber and end your career. The absolute best units in this stage will be Veronica and Laplace. Veronica's dual attack and defense buff and consistent shield on your squishy units helps keep them alive because remember, Mateos hits like a wet noodle if you have a shield up. Laplace is kind of a must-have because of her AoE shield on her S2, but most importantly her chain finisher dealing fixed damage. For the remaining 2 slots, you can run a myriad of different units, and I won't say which ones are a must use because it depends on your account and how it is built. But I will give you some criteria that you want to take with you and decide for yourself. So for the remaining 2 slots, they have to fulfill either criteria. Number 1, being a DPS that nukes real hard or a debuffer with damage over time. Or 2, a supporter that helps you deal more damage or keeps you alive. Units that fit the first criteria would be units like Air, who is the queen of nuking with the S3 S2 combo, or units like Marion and Beth who puts out bleed or curse stacks to deal damage over time, aiding you in cheesing the boss while doing damage on your own. Units that fit criteria 2 would be units like Tamara and Valentine, who buffs your overall damage and dual attacks, or Cindy, who helps you provide attack buff and extending the shield duration on your units, keeping Mateos' damage at bay. And there you have it. Every dungeon boss guide is out there now for everyone to refer to. Hopefully this will help you guys better prepare for RTA since the name of the game is farming to get better stats. If this guide series helped you, make sure you leave a like on the video to help me reach more players who are struggling. Heck, share it into your Discord server too. By the way, if you're wondering how I would prioritize my EE if I were to start all over again, check out this video where I explain my thought process and I'll see you there.